Everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse. It is July 1st, 2026. I'm your host, Eric Osterman. For those of you who are new to Office Hours, this is where we discuss the latest DevOps news, AWS announcements, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our sweetops community. Plus, there's a live Q&A you won't find anywhere else. Now, real quick before we get started, I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse maintains a very large ecosystem of open source tools. Chief among them is a tool called Atmos. It's a really awesome way to manage your infrastructure as well as local development environments. So check it out. Go to atmos.tools. Quick note on how to get the most out of today's session. First off, our format is informal, so you can engage as much as you'd like. You can post questions in the chat or unmute yourself to jump in the conversation. If you're tuning in from YouTube, you can join these sessions live. Just go to cloudposse.com/office hours. I do have one small ask. If you find any portion of today's session valuable, share it with your team. Just head over to youtube.com/cloudposse where you'll find the recording posted in a few hours. So with that said, let's see what caught my attention this week. Yeah. So this one, I don't know how relevant it is to everyone. It was relevant to us or me because one of the cool things, if you're using Claude Cowork or OpenClaw or whatever your agentic harness is, having a CLI is one of the good alternatives to an MCP. The MCPs that I've seen for Google are pretty limited, but the this CLI that seemed kind of official but wasn't official was the go-to way. What turns out is that the guy, and it was as recently about a week or so, or a week and a half ago, I was on a new laptop. I needed to get the client, and for some reason, I couldn't find it or I struggled. And that got me wondering. Then I came across this post on LinkedIn, happenstance, and it turns out that the guy that wrote that tool got fired from Google for writing that tool. Now I'm sure the devil's in the details. I'm sure there was some more to the story, but that is one perspective to the story. Anybody use the GWS CLI? I found the GWS CLI is pretty slick because what you can do is if you use it together with like Claude Cowork, it can put together emails, add the attachments, and draft those for you much better than just the native integrations. Um, yeah, next. So, as we've talked about previously, I forget if we brought this up last week or not, but since it's on my slides, I'll cover it. This looked interesting to me. It is a new project. You think of it like a Bitnami images alternative. So, Bitnami was known both for their Helm charts and their images, but they've since discontinued publishing new images, I believe, at least with tagged releases, and they were going to stop publishing community edition images altogether. Um, Not only that, they weren't necessarily hardened images to begin with. I believe Docker has also come out with some degree of hardened images. We've talked about it on office hours. They were going to be paid, but I believe they ended up opening it up. I don't know where that story ended. This is a new alternative. It's called Minimus, and they're benchmarked against various open standards, and they're free with apparently no pull rate limits. This is an interesting, startup opportunity, I think, for a company. Much like we've seen a lot of companies come up, a lot of new projects like introducing emulators for clouds, because I think that's a really good problem that you can throw AI at and loop iteratively. The APIs are public, the SDKs are public, and it's a pretty self-contained testable problem. This is another interesting one where I bet creating vetted ecosystems like this using vulnerability scanning tools, you can probably create images with loops pretty consistently. Anyone check out Minimus yet? So one of the annoying things in GitHub Actions is that the only way to achieve parallelism in your GitHub Action workflows is to use multiple jobs. But if you use multiple jobs, they could literally be on different instances, and at the minimum, there's no crosstalk between the jobs. So you end up orchestrating complex things using artifacts attached to commits. So the other annoying thing with jobs is they don't work in composite actions. And if you write composite actions, there was really no great way to get any sort of parallelism without sticking in a shell script and managing background jobs and stuff in Bash. So they've recently extended support for a single job to have parallelism now. So you can set a step to run in the background, and then you can reap it, wait for it at the end, and run multiple steps in parallel. So this is an alternative to, shell scripting with background operators. But also the nice thing is this allows the logs to be separated by steps in the same way. So it is still a step up from just backgrounding things in Bash. Obviously, these things run within a single job, so you're limited to the compute of that job. But there are many reasons to run things in parallel aside from just instance scalability. Anyone kick the tires on parallel steps yet? All right, that's that. So Michael in the community shared this. Interesting that, Terraform, having been around still for a long time, aka OpenTofu now, the fork, it still doesn't have first-class linting built into the language. This was a proposal to implement it. It's been accepted, and work is going to start here. So you can follow along. Linting is a great way to ensure consistency of your code as it relates to Terraform. It would be enforcing a sort of level of consistency then on your modules or your root modules. Also, apparently Mart, he's formerly from HashiCorp and he jumped camp to OpenTofu.
One question about the linting, though, and I haven't read the RFC, so I don't know, but I'm just wondering, does it have any sort of rules baked into it, or is it all opinionated, you know?
It
Um,
Right, right. Does it come with baked in that it's a good question if there will be a rule library, but that my there's probably a certain set of best practices, but there's also kind of like it depends on what you're trying to optimize for.
yeah. Because I mean, the reason why I ask is because Terraform, and I guess by default OpenTofu, already has the FMT command, which is
Yeah,
very opinionated as far as like how the code is formatted. So I'm
yeah,
wondering what an additional step, like a linting step, buys you if you can't enforce your standards. Like say you have a resource and every resource has to have a doc string or something like that. So
yeah.
does the linter allow you to write a rule that enforces that? Or, I'm just wondering what it buys
Yeah.
you outside
No,
of
the
format.
great questions, and I did not get a chance to dig in too much deeper. Let's see, do we have Michael here? We do not. So, but just scanning here, first thing is interesting is that it seems like the lint rules can be distributed together with the provider, which makes a lot of sense.
Oh,
So,
cool.
provider can stipulate what some of those rules are, but they also talk about being able to support custom lint rules as well, implemented inside of a module.
And so this will be the last thing I'll say, and I'll leave it alone. It would be cool to have a lint rule that does the math on resource names. So, like you could put a resource name that's too long for AWS,
Oh,
or
right. Yeah,
you can
good
create
point.
variable names. You say, well, make sure that the prefix is 20 characters because AWS needs another 30 characters after that. But how do I know
Yeah.
that my prefix is good enough without chopping it too short or something like that? It'd be really cool if the linter did that for you.
Well, and it sounds like that's in the intent at least here. So since they said a provider would be able to specify its lint rules, the AWS provider could then have specific lint rules for different
Yeah,
resource types, like bucket names, which are limited to 63 characters or something due to DNS limitations.
yeah.
Similarly, like AW, or as I've learned, Azure storage accounts, they can't have any non-alpha numeric characters are forbidden. So, all
The
right.
sad part about that is that to be sure about that goes beyond static checking. You have to check your variables and everything to get a definitive answer on
That's
physical
true.
resource name lengths.
Yeah, yeah, it has to be evaluated, and it might not be known until after apply. So this was interesting. This was trending on Hacker News this week. The website is offline at least a second ago. Let's see if it's back now. Oh, it's back. Okay, so I guess I hit it when they were doing a deployment or something. Um, why this stood out to me is for a few reasons. Uh, I think the first person who really put this on my radar, not this project, but this concept, was Jeremy White. He's a regular on Office Hours, and he ditched like graffiti-like memory systems for AI for his developer workflow because in those systems, the knowledge is still hidden away in a graph you don't really look at. Yes, you can interrogate it, you can query it, and you can do all that, but it's not like a living document or system. So I forget the wiki system he landed on. It was not this one, but it was another one, lightweight. And then what he has are just agent skills that ensure that every work tree, every workspace, every project that he's on is just updating his internal knowledge base, and then his agents can talk to that knowledge base. This is taking that idea and formalizing it into a very nice, standalone product that's open source. What I like about it is out of the box, it supports both Markdown and rich text editing, as well as an MCP. So you can integrate this with your your harness, your agent harness, so that all the things you're doing it can keep a record of some of that in a centralized kind of agentic devlog. Think of this as an agentic devlog. And all of that can then be queried more efficiently. Anyone take a look at this or practicing something similar? So yeah, I think I'm gonna try something like that out.
I wonder how you'd have something like this for a team, you know?
Yeah. Well, so they talk about that and they show an example in one of the screenshots here. It's designed for parallel editing. So look at this. Here you can see Claude is working on this, Alan's working on this, Codex is typing this up. So it has that it has the concept of parallel editing. And also, if any of you have been using Notion, this is one of those things that is, for as awesome Notion is as a product, unless you go enterprise, there's no version history. So I believe this it solves that as well.
It looks really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like trying to do things with files in Git is not a way to manage things for teams on that front, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
Also, one of the challenges I have sometimes is so I have my Codex Pro Max 20 and I have my Claude Pro Max 20 and I go between them depending on which one I max out first and then I go over to the other one. But then I have all this context and stuff that's over here that I've been doing in Claude maybe. And if I want to jump over to Codex, then I don't have that same kind of history there. So.
yeah, I've been working around that with different sort of profiles with umbrella repos that will have a skill that is specific to that repo that has then sub repos that it manages beneath it. But yeah, it's really hard to manage multiple of these things without some sort of mediator, some middle ground. So
Have you looked into anything like this, Zach? We brought it up on office hours before, but I have, I have a laundry list of things I got to get to and test out, but this is
yeah,
one of
same
those
here.
things. basically using Git notes to annotate all the commits so the context lives alongside the commits.
Yeah, sort of like semantic release or whatever that is. That when you use Git tags or the tags to do your release versioning and all that stuff. Or
It's different though. So so Git notes are a first-class concept that nobody uses, but
yeah, I
it's
haven't even heard of it, dude. So
oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So Git notes lets you add arbitrary metadata to any commit and is built into the Git protocol.
that's
Uh,
that's neat.
yeah, so now you can see that without modifying the commit, you can well, it's going to be confusing to say annotate because Git annotations are a separate concept, also similar to Git notes, but I think annotations are limited on the length. But if you use Git notes, now you can add the context, the prompt, other information that helped produce that commit so that other agents are aware of like the thought process there.
That's really, really useful.
Yeah. So I really want to try this out if I can
Yeah, I'm going to give it a whirl.
check
Yeah,
it
I was
out.
just gonna add to that. That's kind of like on Wikimedia, and maybe you mentioned this. I can't. I'm multitasking here, but on
Yeah.
Wikimedia, where there's the actual data on the page, but then on the side there's all this conversation about the data on the page,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so
It's
that's what
like that.
this feature gives you. Yeah, so you can almost go crazy with it, and have
Yeah.
total side conversations, and add and update and put design decisions and that type of stuff. I mean, that's not might not be the place for all of that stuff, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
totally go crazy with it.
At least it's scratch space for it, right? So if you have all of that as scratch space alongside the commits, it's a lot easier to reconstruct retroactively, like why this PR took the shape it took, why certain things ended up the way they are. So yeah, that's that. We okay. So and then GitHub has been continuously investing in GitHub projects, and they are actually quite decent from my perspective, especially for open source, its primary use case. So one of the nice things that they've done now is they allow you to create your own views and customize what you see, but also you can now have taller rows, basically. So if you want to see the summary related to your issues, you can do that on the project board. Um, So GitHub has obviously received a lot of flack, some of it warranted, some of it, you know, unfortunate. There have been all the issues with supply chain attacks and compromised credentials that have been used for, say, NPM publishing or otherwise. Uh, Ensuring that credentials get revoked was not straightforward before. Now they made it very easy to revoke all methods of access, for example, for a particular user account on a GitHub org. This was trending on Hacker News this past week. Um, you know, it's transparently totally vibe coded, but apparently fully validated POCs of hacks. Now, some of these are, I don't know what you call it, kind of like strawman attacks, meaning if you have elevated access, you can get elevated access. Like if you can replace this binary, you can get elevated access. That is not really a significant exploit in my book, but there are others here. So something to take a look at. What's interesting and scary at the same time, apparently none of the projects for which these were found were notified about any of these. He's just publishing them, not taking credit for it really, just saying, hey, do what you will with it. Um, Scratching his own itch. One of the things that I've been spending a lot of time with over the past couple of weeks has been emulators. And I've wanted to like emulators for a long time, but they, for the most part, fell short or were just too slow. And to some degree, that story will continue to be the truth, right? They will never have complete emulation. But when it works, it is just so convenient for local development, end-to-end tests, CI, etc. So we've added that support to Atmos. I'll talk about that separately. But through my research on that, I came across this project, and I don't recall bringing it up on office hours. I think it is relatively a new project as well. But Vercel has come out with an emulate package um, that makes it a lot easier for you to develop locally against the following services. I didn't look too closely at all of them. The Slack integration seemed quite comprehensive. The AWS one was very basic. Basically, it was just like S3 buckets and that's it. Um, so I'm excited to see this. I hope there's continued investment. This, like I led with earlier in the show, I think emulators are a perfect application of agentic loops where, the APIs and the SDKs are available. You can just throw agents at it and evolve those emulators as we go. This also relates to something else that I was talking about on Office Hours a few weeks ago, which is like SaaS services these days need to do a better job of making it easy to to use them in development. Um, Ironically, I would say Slack or not Slack, Stripe is probably one of those. So Stripe has really nice sandboxes, which is great, but it still sucks when you want to do ephemeral environments. You can't really use Stripe sandboxes with ephemeral environments because there's really no great story for how to do ephemeral environments with any SaaS service that requires webhooks. So this is one alternative to that, right? If you can emulate the particular service you depend on, it's a great story for local development and CI.
Yeah, this is something that I wish I had maybe 5 years ago. And this is just I'm testimony, give my testimony now to your statement,
Yeah.
where literally I was working with the development team. They were integrating with Stripe, and they wanted to basically what you said, build ephemeral environments to test their application without having to go through this full on, you know,
Yeah.
human in the loop integration with Stripe every time they wanted to try something. So they had a very static staging environment and they had their production environment, but they couldn't do anything else independent of those two environments. So if you have a team of developers, they're trying to push features and make changes, et cetera, and they have to wait their turn for the staging environment, it just kind of sucks. But anything we try to do ephemeral, we hit that speed bump of having to email Stripe, get the API key, set it up, right? And it just slows down the
And
velocity
God
so
forbid, then you're
much.
going to orchestrate Stripe to create dynamic sandboxes and just let
Yeah,
turtles all the way down.
yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, this all that is to say, this would have been really cool to
Yeah.
have about 5 years ago. So yeah, I might play with it just to validate some stuff that we were trying to do, back in the day.
Yeah. It was worth it. Um, And it looks like they're accepting pull requests and it's an open framework almost for implementing API emulators for the various services. So I saw in the pull request history, there's a bunch of activity with other things like post hog support getting, or was it post hog emulator getting added? So I dig it. Next was okay, so that was the end of the general updates that caught my attention this past week. We have some minor updates coming in Atmos that were just merged in the past week or so. Um, we still we are 2 weeks into this release. Usually we try and release weekly or so. We're running a little bit behind here. But here's some little minor improvements that we've added to Atmos. One of them here is so structured diagnostics. I'm going to share this more because this is a technique that I've really enjoyed using that could benefit anyone else, not necessarily even using Atmos, like if you have your own tools and your own CLIs. So one of the things that things like Claude are really awesome at are debugging, triaging, but they're only as good as the data that they receive. Atmos is very good at emitting a lot of logs. We have a lot of and log levels, and we have trace levels of output. But let's just say there's a degree to which what we want to include in log messages for all of that. So what we added was another layer called diagnostics, which is just like the raw data streaming out of Atmos inside that we can send to a file. And then Claude can analyze a full execution run much easier and see what went wrong. Also, it's interesting because we can ask users to send us a diagnostic file that we can then analyze on our own. Here's something I've thought was really slick and an interesting technique. So one of the most common things we see these days with users of Atmos is that they start using it across more and more of the repositories in their organization. Because Atmos is no longer just a small tool for managing Terraform, it manages basically the life cycle of operations across tools, across workflows, better than pretty much any other tool out there. Better than just files, better than make files, better than most other task runners as well. It handles authentication. It handles toolchain installation. Well, one of the things I'm working on inside of Atmos is I'm creating the pipeline that creates all of our demos. And then I want to upload those demos to an S3 bucket. All of our configuration for authentication is managed in our infrastructure repository where we have the profiles and auth configured. And I want to use that now in my separate workload repository. How can I do that? Very easily. I can just specify an import in my Atmos config to the infrastructure repository and load the auth configuration from that other repo. And now I have access to all those AWS configs where I'm working. Centrally managed, works with private repositories, automatically authenticates with GitHub, provided you have the CLI installed, and really convenient way of doing that. Any questions on remote imports? And this particular improvement was Atmos supports the concept of profiles, which are multiple configuration profiles. Previously we didn't support imports inside of profiles. Now we support imports inside of profiles.
Is that the recommended approach for like the ECS shift left thing? Is that to centralize it? Do you see more
Exactly.
value there?
Exactly. So if you have a lot of app repos and they need and they are disconnected from like a centralized monorepo for your infrastructure, they need auth. They need to authenticate, right? So in an organization, the number of ways you can authenticate is usually centrally managed, and the variations are limited. So therefore, why not make your auth configuration centrally managed? So then each workload repository, think of each app repository, every developer who launches a new app can just have one little config file that imports the auth configuration from a centralized location.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah. And okay, so profiles. So one of the things that we support in Atmos natively is the toolchain, which is a way to install any tool on virtually any platform. So if you're running Windows, Linux, Mac, whether you're running on a workstation or in CI, Atmos can install the tools that you declare as dependencies. But sometimes you don't want Atmos maybe to install them. You just want to use what's on the system. You should still declare what you require so that you find errors faster. One of the things we did is now you can declaratively require what tools a particular workflow needs to operate. That way you fail fast. This is probably useful to no one except for me, but I'm going to spread the wealth of knowledge or experience. Um, we added the ability to throttle the output of Atmos. And why the heck would you want to do that? For a few reasons. One is if you're using VHS to do recordings of a tool, VHS is I'm not, does everyone know what VHS is? We use it. It's a awesome project by Charm Bracelet. If you see repositories with these animated GIFs or MP4 files, etc., that was probably created using VHS. VHS is very slick because you can just create a tape file. And that tape file looks something like this. Hey, write the recording to this file, make my terminal roughly this size, set my font size this, type this command, wait 500 milliseconds, hit enter, sleep, etc. And then it produces a recording like this. So happy path, that works really well. Unfortunately, the way that actually works under the hood is VHS uses a service called TTYD. TTYD is another open source project that creates a virtual PTY and a daemon so you can do recordings. That thing freaks out when the output is too fast and you can't figure out why your recordings stall or that they never finish. Well, it turns out that if you are outputting, you're overflowing the buffer, you're writing too much too fast, then that happens. But there's another really clever reason to do this. What was it? Slow. That was called slow. Yeah. And it was this idea here. One of the hard things when you do demos, especially of terminal apps, is you want to convey a story. You're telling a story in the demo, showing how a project or a tool works. But you don't want to tell the story at the speed maybe it happens in a recording. You want to be able to consume the lines and see as they go by. So this was a really clever project called Slowmore, which taps into the pager that a lot of apps natively support so that you can record demos and actually consume the output without it just going by faster than you can even see on the screen. So that is Slowmore. Check it out if you do demos. However, what we did in Atmos is Atmos owns the whole I/O layer. So in Atmos, all we did was we added a speed controller, a throttler, that tells it, to output at most 18 lines per second, for example, to the output. This is a brilliant update to Atmos with dependencies. So one of the hardest part when you have a large infrastructure is understanding what pieces relate to what. Because Atmos supports containers now, Kubernetes coming out this next week, Helm coming out this next week, Helm file is supported for a long time, Ansible, Packer, and Terraform. What is the relationship graph between all of that? What needs what? In Atmos, because it's basically a data model for your infrastructure, you can describe those dependencies. But that's great for agents that consume the AI. It's great for the developer writing the YAML, but it sucks for everyone else looking at it because they have to maintain a mental model of how that fits together. Now you can run Atmos list dependencies, and it shows the complete dependency tree between all your components across all your stacks. And you can filter for the direction. So whether you want the forward dependencies or reverse dependencies or both. This is an example showing both. So app config depends on DynamoDB table and the KMS key. Nothing requires app config. So you can see the relationships there. We've also decided to bundle the AI skills directly in Atmos. That way the skills match the version of Atmos. Otherwise, you can have an incongruence with what you can do with the skill, but what Atmos binary can do. This helps you keep your skills in sync. And because we don't want to be outdone by GitHub supporting parallel steps, background jobs, and reaping or waiting, we did the same thing in Atmos. So, oh wait, this is container services. So, okay, so we also support container steps now in Atmos. So in Atmos, you can run steps. Those steps can run inside of a container. So you can basically get a GitHub-like local experience running workflows. Why are we doing all this? The idea is that we want everything to be locally reproducible as much as possible so developers can iterate as fast as possible, which is why we've introduced emulators to continue on that trend of doing things locally. But then because you have this workflow, you can now just run that as a boring command in a GitHub Action workflow, and you have total local and remote reproducibility. So this is a pretty cool enhancement here in Atmos to run containers. All right, that's all I got. Any other interesting announcements this past week? Oh, there's a whole bunch of things in the chat I did not look at. Let me see here. Yeah, so Michael jokes, Pro Max has limits. Unfortunately, it does. One of the things that I've noticed, like for example, even at Cloud Posse, if one is just using like the Claude desktop CLIs or the terminal CLIs, hitting those limits is pretty hard. But if you use an agent harness like Conductor or Hermes agent or anything else, you can really hit those limits pretty quick because you have so many agents working in parallel doing work. So I am constant. I have total, what is it? Token anxiety, you could say. Am I going to be able to finish my day without hitting token limits? Is a day-to-day concern. Let's see what else was in the Zoom chat here. Lost the chat. There it is. My question, gripe of the day, Zachary says, is along the lines of listing and validations. Anyone else repeatedly get hit by AWS or other provider code that plans without issue, but upon apply fails due to validation differences in the API versus the provider? I mean, not so much as the API versus the provider as much as it is just that there was nothing wrong with the API. It's just that when you actually go to deploy it, you have a conflict or something that wasn't picked up at plan time. I find that the most annoying thing ever. Zach, anything else you want to add to that one?
Yeah, it just feels like something that could be easily solved. That's all. I mean, it's
Yeah, I know.
JSON. They own the provider. They own the API. Where's the difference? How come they don't have the same validations in the provider that they have on, their backend API? It's bewildering to me. That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my gripe of the day. So
Yeah, it's totally reasonable. I think I think it would be really neat if AWS invested in earlier validation that could be catch more things during plan time.
I can only imagine it happens for any of the other like
Oh
cloud
yeah, it's
providers.
going to
So
be a provider specific problem. One thing that is interesting, Paul brought it up a couple weeks ago. There is one thing you can enable to get earlier validation related to tag policies. Um, one minor one-off improvement. Have you had any have you tried tag policies at all?
no, I'll have to look into it.
One
Yeah.
problem with these APIs is that not all the semantics, the fine semantics, are not all documented. And that's something for us to keep in mind. I wish, but there's a long way toward getting the fine semantics, the interactions between different resources, the complex config structures where you can set one key at one level, but then it conflicts with something else. It's not all written down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If they should be able to fit it into a JSON schema somehow, man. just gonna bank on their massive amounts of money to fix that problem for me
Well, I
instead of
mean, that,
being logical about it. I just want it working.
I mean,
So
that's one layer of it is the JSON schema. For me, it's always the other thing. Like literally the API responded with an error because there's, the operation either couldn't have been performed or there's a duplicate of something. Um, you can
they
have a
are
bad input.
massive APIs too. So
Yeah.
it's sort of
I found a case yesterday just strictly within HCL, not even involving an AWS the configuration data structure, if you will, where the type the type constraint specification for HCL doesn't allow me to capture the full richness. There's a case where you can have a percentage or a count in a config structure, and one or the other can be present, but never both. And you cannot express that as a type constraint in the HCL. So I kind of wonder what kind of schema definition would allow us to capture all that richness. You'd have to have a lot of conditions there.
Yeah. A lot of conditions. Um, So Zach, I saw your message on the supporting mini stack and Floki or Flosi. I just met I was just talking to the founder of Flosi. It's not Floki, it's Flosi.
is it? Oh, see, it's just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like
I like
Vite.
Floki more
Vite is
though.
like Vite versus Vite or whatever they call it. I got corrected on that one hard, man. Like I was saying it Vite, like I had like mental problems, and I was
Oh,
told no, it's Vite, like
oh, it's
Vite.
Vite. Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Okay, I've been corrected.
yeah, dude, that's my. Dude, I run around the house saying Vite, because it sounds so much better than Vite, you
I
know.
like Vite more personally, so I don't know. Uh,
I know, me too, but we were saying it like a bunch of Cro-Magnons, so
yeah, so Flosi it is. Um,
Placitas.
so in Atmos, we added support for these emulated services now. So AWS with a driver of Flosi, AWS with the driver of MiniStack, AWS with the driver of LocalStack. Note that this would be like the legacy version that the community images don't get published anymore. Flow-C supports GCP and Azure as well. We added an emulator for Kubernetes vis-a-vis K3s. We added basically development mode services for OpenBow, Vault, and a registry. We added all of these to scratch our own itch because one of the cool things we can do now in Atmos is demonstrate an end-to-end test using Atmos where we spin up the emulator for AWS, spin up the emulator for Kubernetes, provision the backend for Terraform vis-a-vis the Flow-C AWS. Um, Using our new Kubernetes manifest, we can render Kubernetes manifests. Atmos natively supports Git, so it can commit those manifests rendered to a Git repository. So one of the things missing here, actually, we added support for Gitea as well. Another one, am I saying it right? I don't know. Gitea. And with Gitea, Atmos can automatically commit to that. We demonstrate how you can run Flux on K3s so that it reads from Gitea and synchronizes. So end to end, the entire GitOps loop can be fully orchestrated and managed end to end using Atmos. So that's the big thing we've been working towards making possible. And emulators were like the game changer. Let's see here. Okay, and Michael throws his hat in for Git T. So we got to figure this out. What is it? Git pronunciation. Git Git T. Okay. Wait. Yeah. So that's the way I guess you say it. The same way you said it there, Michael. Git T.
Yeah, I just read context from their logo. It looks like a teacup to me.
Oh, that would help. Kitty. Yeah, that must be it. All right. Any other interesting things this past week caught your attention?
Well, I just wanted to give a shout out to Cloud Posse Terraform modules. The current season of From Cover to Code, we're reading Terraform Up and Running third edition, and there's a chapter in there that talks about Terraform modules. And basically, Angela Andrews, who's the co-host of the show with me, we talked about our use of modules and how we've applied them. And I've reflected on when I was introduced to Cloud Posse. I don't know how many years ago it's been now, but I was really impressed by the depth and breadth of the library of modules that are available, or that you guys make available for use. And so I shared that with on the shows, like, hey, here's a library of modules that you can use out of the box, or if you want to develop your own modules or library of modules, here's a very structured and very well engineered approach to doing that. And so that's pretty much the module, or not the module, the model that I adopted for some work I did a few years ago with a team, and we were developing an internal library of modules. Because we already had a structure and a framework in place, we couldn't adopt Cloud Posse modules out of the box and just drop them in place. Because I mean, it's a pretty opinionated use
They're
of them.
opinionated, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but when you use them all together from scratch, it works, right? But since we
Yeah.
were already sort of, pretty far down the road, we started to build our own library. But we used a very similar approach to you guys to like say, hey, we've got this resource, for module for this resource, module for this resource, and so on and so forth, till we have this library of building blocks that we can just kind of pull together to architect pretty much whatever we need to architect pretty easily. So yeah, just want to give you guys a shout out.
I
Thanks
appreciate it so much,
for making
Michael.
those
Thank you.
available. Yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah, it's been a labor of love. I think these days modules will continue to be relevant, but maybe along the lines of what you say, where they become kind of the context for AI to create exactly the modules that you might need.
Mhm.
So context references. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be here to share that. We usually record on Wednesdays, so when we're recording, I usually don't come into the Cloud Posse talks, but we're off this week, so that's why I'm
Okay.
I'm here hanging out. So glad to
Yeah, it's
catch
been a
it
little
in
while.
in real
Good to
time.
see you
Yeah.
stop by. Any other interesting discoveries? Did you figure out what you were going to do for your labs?
Um. Yeah. No, for the auto scaling stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
still working on it. It's still kind of a off and on thing. Um. Really, the hardest part was determining how to get a deterministic response from a auto scaling group, so that if I shared a lab with somebody, they can pretty much read it the same way that I'm reading it and they get a very similar response. I kind of got that dialed in. The sucky part is when you're working with, and maybe this is the case for emulators, when you're working with live infrastructure, you have to wait there's a bake time, right? So if you apply a stimulus, you have to wait for the group to respond. It does its thing. And then I've got like some command line controls where you can completely reset the auto scaling group back to zero pretty quickly. So that helps. But it's not like true to how an auto scaling group would operate, but it helps as far
Yeah.
as like advancing the concept of the lab along. Otherwise, you got to sit there and wait for it to scale down. Um, or if I'm demonstrating overscaling, you have to wait for it to just stay scaled up to say, oh, hey, it should have scaled down by now, 10 minutes in, but it's still sitting there, overscaled even after the stimulus is gone. So it's kind of funky that way, but yeah, I got a solution. Yeah, is the short answer to the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, good enough for now.
Yeah.
I did realize there were a few things I posted later on in this morning that didn't make it into the slide deck. So here are a couple other interesting announcements for those who are interested. Um, One is that EKS now supports rollbacks, not just upgrades. So that's pretty nice that you can go both ways. It is specifically, I believe, for clusters with auto mode enabled. Cloud Posse's EKS cluster module supports auto mode, so this should probably be a capability that it supports. Maybe there's some other toggles that might be needed. The other interesting thing is that CloudWatch logs now will include the resource tags of all the events. So that's awesome. Now that you can finally filter the logs in a much more meaningful manner related to CloudWatch and drill down to your deployment. And lastly, Fable 5 is coming back. You should start seeing it roll out today. And I believe but unfortunately, it's not the same Fable 5 that came out earlier in June, on June 12th, or it was, yeah, a week before June 12th. And it will automatically downgrade to Opus 4.8 for many kinds of requests. But yeah, we'll see. The biggest win for me with Fable was its ability to operate autonomously for longer periods of time. So less interrupts, less questions that I needed to answer. Scanning if there was anything else we missed. That's it. All right. Any final thoughts before we depart for the day?
Eric, Juan had a question about Atmos secrets. You might have missed it in the
I missed
chat.
it.
It's kind of sandwiched in between, just to let you know.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, okay. And then Paul, you shared something too. I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, mine's not worthy of a discussion, but make sure you get to Juan's question.
Juan, you said you were playing with Atmos Secret and you were curious how it would work with the ECS example, like using SSM params as the back end, how we would reference it in the ECS task or stack. Like you understand the bang secret and masking, but you'd like the ECS task key name. So
you're setting it in the ECS task. It's under the secrets. There's the key name. They have to pass in the parameter path. I wasn't sure if there
got
was
it.
another function or something that exposed the
Yeah.
path
Well,
wrote
so
something.
ECS is an interesting one because ECS has its own concept of secrets. So you would probably not use the bang secret with the ECS task. Instead, though, what you would use is the ability to manage secrets themselves. Let me pull that up. Atmos changelog. So what's nice about Atmos secrets is you can declare, you can declare all the secrets that you depend on. So now you have an imperative list of secrets defined. Then what you can run is Atmos secret set, Atmos secret init, Atmos secret list to manage the life cycle of those secrets there. So it's still valuable in that sense. One of the challenges we've seen teams have is when you need to onboard an application into new environments, dev, staging, and prod, what are all the settings that you need to set when you do that? Now with Atmos secret init, you can basically have a line in the README, run Atmos secret init, specify the stack, specify the component, and then it will prompt you for the integration secrets that it needs to move forward. Did that clear anything up? But I think we will update our example as soon as we cut 1.2.2.2. Now the task becomes updating our public example repo to showcase all of the new features enabled in that repository.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, stand by for that.
All right, thank you.
And then Zach, okay, for fun, AWS CloudFormation stack set operation preferences was fairly simple data structure whose full semantics could not be captured in HCL because only one of two optional keys is allowed at a time. This simple and common example, but even AWS Cloud Control API, which is a detailed JSON schema for every resource, can't capture the finest level details of semantics. Paul, you are a master of esoteric knowledge as it relates to AWS.
Oh no, this is just to say that the question of perfect linting, we can never do it statically, but
Yeah.
to get what we want really does require running things through the API. It's not about AWS. I'm sure this is true of Azure and the other providers too. There's always something in an API that's not documented, or when you have a type spec language like in HCL, the type spec language doesn't let you cover these weird cases where you have like 4 optional keys and they're in pairs, and one of each pair is allowed, but not both.
Yeah.
So what do you do? I don't know. You couldn't do that in JSON either unless you invented all kinds of weird
Yeah.
stuff. I think it's a hard problem to solve, and I wish our API, those who write APIs and document them, would focus a little more in their documents on the edge cases of using the API, the fine detail, because that's what trips us up and slows us down. Not the happy path,
I think
which
those
is
edge
obvious.
cases often aren't found until real life usage.
True.
Spoken from personal experience, like with Atmos, it's interesting when at a certain point, users end up using it in ways that you haven't even considered of doing, and then you find those edge cases.
But that's the thing also, that I trust you and I trust your team. I trust the people on this call to care about those issues. You're not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
fool us with a document that just shows everything the easy, simple way. You're gonna consider these things, or when you get a report, you're gonna act on it and document it. Some of these issues that I've seen, in my case with AWS, but I don't want to single them out, have existed for years, and there's no way, and
yeah,
with Terraform too, and there's just no attention to fixing them. We shouldn't write documents just for the perfect case, because that's
yeah,
a simple, easy case. Like, think about the hard stuff and save people time.
yeah. The hard stuff. Yeah, well, thank you all for the conversation today. I think that wraps us up for the hour. We'll be back next week at the same place, same time. For those of you here in the States, happy 4th of July. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back next Wednesday. If you are new to Cloud Posse and you want to get more involved, you can always register for the live office hours at cloudposse.com/office hours. Enter your email and you'll get an invite to our weekly call. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get updates. Every week we post the new office hours videos there. Our Slack team is at cloudposse.com/Slack, where we post these links and conversate around current events in the office hours channel. Our newsletter goes out once a month. Just hit send on that last night. So go to cloudposse.com/newsletter to register and get next month's edition. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.